All right. That music is connected to one of the things we're going to talk about today on The Nose. We are going to be talking today on The Nose about, first of all, Lord of the Flies on Netflix, and second of all, The Fall and Rise of Reggie Dinkins on NBC. They could not be more different from one another. Maybe they could, but it's hard to imagine how. And we're going to be doing all of that with our panel, which is Shawn Murray, stand-up comedian, writer, host of the Fantasy Filmball podcast, Irene Papoulis, teacher, writer, thinker, bon vivant, and Bill Yousman, professor of media studies at Sacred Heart University. You know, I'm almost starting to feel like, I don't want to say this because I know it could cause trouble in the ranks. This is starting to feel like kind of the first unit, like, it's not like we couldn't put some other really good skaters on the ice, with their second and third lines, but you guys are starting to kind of gel into this thing here. So, The Lord of the Flies is a BBC and Netflix limited series, 4 episodes of about an hour, I believe, written and created by Jack Thorne, who also wrote and created Adolescence. So we are all very interested to know what he would do next. This is the answer to that question. Before I have to say one other thing that's unrelated to any of the above, and that is that on Monday, May 11th, Monday of next week, at 7 p.m., we will be, not the members of The Nose, but I will be, and the rest of my crew will be live at Theater Works in Hartford, the regular Theater Works where you've always gone to Theater Works in Hartford, recording a show about the new play Circus Fire by Nose panelist Jacques Lamar, and we'll be talking about the play and the actual Hartford Circus Fire. That's at 7 p.m., and you could just come and show up and be in the audience for free, but you do have to reserve a ticket at ctpublic.org/Colin there. So you know about this. Come and join us. We'll have a lot of fun. I mean, a minimum. It's a circus fire. What are you going to do? All right. Now, on to another cheerful topic, Lord of the Flies. Let's hear a little clip from the show. Mr. Amatruda, we're going to hear Lox Pratt as Jack, the blonde-haired, blue-eyed guy who kind of veers out of control eventually. Winston Sawyers as Ralph, and David McKenna as Piggy. Here we go, A1.
Now we're going to hunt pigs and get meat for everybody. And we're going to keep you all safe.
My father's in the Navy, and he said there aren't any unknown islands left. He says that the Queen has a big room full of maps, and all the islands in the world are drawn there. So the Queen's got a picture of this island, and sooner or later, to exploring these islands, a ship will put in here. It might even be my father's ship. So we will be rescued.
Well, I hope they're at least a week so we can have a little fun first.
No, fun is necessary, but let's divide ourselves. We'll need a team to build a signal fire, for which I propose at the top of the mountain.
Yeah. The hunters will make the best signal fire. Come on!
Yeah. No, look! We also need other teams to build shelters and lavatories and hunt the pig! Kids.
And that's sort of during the happy time of the movie. This is, of course, based on the William Golding novel from, I believe, 1954. Irene Papoulis, get us started here. This, on the one hand, we come to this, most of us have read the book in high school or something like that. There have been 2 other movie adaptations, never been adapted for TV before. How do we think this worked?
Oh, I think it worked really well. Even though I know, the suspense of what's going to happen isn't really there for anyone who even vaguely remembers reading the book in high school or at any other time, but it's so well acted. It's so well done that and also they explore some of the sort of latent things in the book that are not explored, like the psychology of the characters, in a way that I thought was really interesting, and the way it's filmed. I mean, when can I go and swim in those caves? Those amazing. I think it was Malaysia where they filmed it. Just like beautiful natural landscape, and it's good.
Shawn, to know or vaguely know what's going to happen, to me, didn't spare me from feeling just kind of gutted when the whole thing was all over. I just felt very, very, I don't even know how to gutted is about the best way that I can describe it. How did it affect you?
I mean, exact same thing. Like, it's one of those things, like, if it was like adults, I probably wouldn't have felt as, having read the book, I kind of know where it's going, but it's like Piggy was a good kid, you know what I mean? Or Simon. I was watching this and I was like, imagine how much different this would have been if Jack were like Jewish or Muslim and he didn't feel the need to kill a pig. You know, what could have been? How many lives could have been saved? Piggy would still be here if they didn't have to kill this big pig hunt.
Only Shawn Murray could turn this into a dietary joke.
The rumor had been he cut a lot of the William Golding material out of his stand-up act, but I guess he still kept the piggy joke.
I've still been, the piggy stuff still works.
So the audiences love it; they go nuts. So, I mean, Bill, I think it is fair to say that adolescence gave us some curiosity about Jack Thorne and his approach. He's apparently interested in the destructive potential of tweens, male tweens. Yeah. This is something that he just basically feels like we're lucky to get through the day without one of them killing us.
Yeah. I mean, you said gutted by Lord of the Flies. I had a similar reaction. But I was also thinking that adolescence, to me, felt like a punch to the gut on a very personal level as the father of a son. Mm-hmm. This feels very much like a punch to the gut on a political level. My compatriots here have heard me say this already, but I can't help but associate this with the larger global cultural, political, social moment that we're living in. The original novel came very much out of World War II. It was, there's no way to think about that novel without thinking about it as a relic of that era. The boys land on the island to begin with because they're being evacuated from, the bombing that was happening in England. And it very much then mirrors what happens when a society loses its mind. What happens when the worst among us feel emboldened to follow their own worst impulses. And I think as much as the novel is about that era, I think this iteration of it is about the era that we're in now.
Yeah, I mean, but I think it's also maybe about a set of human questions too, Irene. Which are connected. I mean, this novel's written in '54. By around 1960, Eichmann is still in the process of, I think, being sentenced, and so Milgram starts to do his experiments at Yale, where he just takes ordinary people and explores whether they can be induced to do abominable things. And it turns out it doesn't take very much. And so I was at the end of this thing thinking, yeah, human beings they're not necessarily horrible and violent, but it doesn't take much to tip them there or something.
Yeah, and to put out of insecurity to sort of get into teams. There's us and there's them, and we have to kill them because we are us and we have to kill them. I mean, is that particularly male? Not necessarily.
You ever seen Yousman in a shirts and skins basketball game? I mean, he's...
Exactly.
It doesn't take long to hate the other people.
It's not particularly male if you think about the show Yellow Jackets, which was so influenced, obviously, by Lord of the Flies, right?
It wasn't written by a man, too.
But it's also fictional.
Men love to imagine that women are like that, maybe, more than, but I
won't
agree.
Go there.
I wouldn't say it's... of course, you can't say it's only male, but... Yeah. A lot of times men do that as a way of hiding their insecurity, and I think this, whatever it is.
This just shows me that Irene hasn't read Lady of the Flies.
Okay, that's going to come out in the next year.
Yeah.
Lady of the Flies.
She's got time on her hands right now.
Ladies of the Flies.
She can start a writing project anytime she wants. But yeah, Shawn, and I don't think this is sort of exactly a spoiler. Maybe I can word it in a way that it's not a spoiler. But this is something that I know that you were commenting on too. At a certain point, it's as though the spell of violence is broken, and broken rather easily, as easily as they fell into this kind of rabid form of violence against one another. There's also just a sense that, Tinkerbell taps them with her wand, and they're kind of turning back into little boys again.
Yeah, that's the most fascinating part of the whole thing to me, is like the instant. I'm gonna just spoil it. Who cares? It came out in 54.
1954, right?
Yeah, the instant the sailor shows up and like they all spot him, like they just drop their spears and it's over. It calls to mind like just how how worthless the whole endeavor, like the things that we get so worked up about. And I think especially in a post-war context of like, they say the war is over and suddenly, whoever your enemy was is no longer your enemy. Just like that. Like there's no reason to kill this guy anymore. Even though a second ago it was imperative that this person's life be taken. And it's so fascinating that like it's I love how it's like completely unspoken. They never like say like, oh, sorry, Ralph. It's just like we're always going to get on this boat together and we'll never talk about this to anyone ever again.
Because
Pretty
it's
much.
not based on anything except team identity.
Yeah.
It's our team versus their team.
Well, there's also, I think, a false promise, which, if this is a critique of the novel, it's that the grown-ups will save us. The authority figure will put everything to right. And how many of us have been asking that, for the last decade, but where are they? There isn't any savior coming.
Or
The
civilization.
figure is Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and I also think that one of the things that Golding does, and I think the series does pretty well too, is different boys respond to that in different ways. And so boys who never felt particularly well served by the reign of adults are happy enough to see the adults get out of the way because they can now take on. And Jack is the most obvious one,
Right.
In fact, Jack is the last one, I think, to let go of his spear at the end.
Yeah, I was going to say he stands there for a long
yes.
time, almost considering.
Because to let go of it, he's letting go of his power.
Right.
So yeah, that was everything to him.
Yeah.
Like being the leader.
He's the only one that it really meant something specific to in a way.
And to your point about psychologizing, maybe a little bit more than Golding, maybe we should preserve some of the mystery of that for the audience. But you do start to get a sense of, oh yes, he would be one of the ones who didn't feel well served by a government of adults, and he's very, very happy to create a new role for himself.
Yeah, and I have to say that the way, the way that he's depicted, I mean, the actor is amazing, I thought, because so much of it is just the camera on his face as you see what he's thinking and you see certain things that he's going through that have to do with his own psychology, and he just really, I mean, it's I would say, in a way, worth watching just for that, just for his acting.
I think they got great performances out of the kid who played Piggy.
Yes.
Oh my goodness, he's so good.
He's so good.
All these young men are just fantastic actors.
Ralph also very good. Yeah. No, it is. We should say a little bit about it visually too, Shawn. I was enjoying the visual sumptuousness of it, although there are sort of times where everything kind of just turns red, like all the leaves turn red.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, is this earned in some way, or we're just going to do this?
Is it just sunset?
Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah, it was an interesting choice, that the red thing is, for me as well, because it was like it didn't feel. It felt like they were trying to do something with that, and never really came together for me. It's like Irene says, like, is this supposed to be sunset, or is this supposed to like be? Are they in like an ethereal? Is this like a representation of what they're going through mentally at the time? Or it never really felt like a consistent idea behind it. But it generally did look amazing, except for the pig, the big boar that they kill. When they finally hunt it down, but like the first time they have like one of the piglets, I was like, man, this CGI is bad. But it's like I can't be mad because it's like, what are you gonna do? Like, it's hard enough to have child actors on screen, let alone
you got to
pig.
get Bill Berloni to fly out to Malaysia and train a bunch of pigs. It's going to be
no pigs were hurt in the filming of this film.
I was a little nervous when they're roasting the pig. I'm thinking, are they getting it to the right temperature? Should
I was worried about that too.
Should Jeremy Allen White show up here and go, no, it needs another 30 minutes here?
Like Jack doesn't know anything about safe temperatures. No. These kids are going to get.
They're going to get trichinosis if it exists there. Bill, just to kind of return to your point, I do think that we are all kind of, our antennae are up now, and we look at something that's dystopian, we look at something that, and for me, what I kept thinking was not so much about Donald Trump or anybody who works in the White House or anything like that, although Pete Hegseth, Jack. Yeah, there's some stuff you can say there's some stuff going on. But it is that sort of other. It's the Milgram question, or Zimbardo also did this famous experiment where he took college kids and made some of them guards and some of them prisoners, and they fell into those roles instantly and became violent and hostile to one another simply in acts of role playing. To me, it's always that question about why do people go along with things? People who seem to be pretty nice people most of the time go along with just absolutely appalling things. And that's very much, I think, in the DNA of this whole intellectual property here.
For sure. And, because what I think the book and the film do very well is they show us that a potential demagogue has no power without followers. And so, we have this island filled with these boys. Most of them are just really kids. And you can see that. They do some great things with, some close-ups of just the random young little kids who are on the island. And even of the four main characters, three of them, are, decent human beings in the making. But all it takes is for the one who's got that in him to get the followers on his side. And the boys in their fear are looking for someone like that. And so they flock to him. And without that willingness of us to go along, even when it gets gradually worse and worse and worse, then we wouldn't have to worry about these things.
Yeah, but it makes me think about civilization too, because
it's very Freudian,
the implication is you can go to civilization and then there's going to be rules and everything's going to be fine once you get away from the island. But now, to Shawn's point that, who's going to come to save us, now it's kind of like, okay, we're in civilization, but what's happening to civilization?
But civilization, I think, is understood by Golding and really maybe by a lot of people kind of active in the world at this moment as something where you have to restrain yourself from doing things you want to do. And so these boys are Peter Pan Lost Boys. Mm-hmm. They've gone to a place where they don't have to follow any rules anymore. And when they don't have to follow any rules anymore, they become bestial.
Which is what can happen in civilization, too, when you don't have to follow any rule. Like, Nazi Germany, which it was a reaction to.
That's why it's very Freudian also, when he started writing not just about individual psyche, but the whole collective and how we responded to rebelling against our restraints.
Shawn, I was reading this morning. I don't know why they felt the need to ask him. There maybe has something to do with Stand By Me or something. I don't know. Stephen King was quoted as saying he had some reservations about this whole idea of this project. Then he thought it really worked really well. And, there's a whole other way where this is just a horror movie. If you wanted to do it just as a horror movie, you could do it that way. It's like, Shawn, I think, a lot of horror movies.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's I think it's one of the most horrifying scenarios you can imagine. People always do that thing where like, if you were stranded on a desert island, would 5 hours? I'm like, no. I don't. The stranded on a desert island part is enough. I don't want to talk about anything further. There's no album that's going to make this better for me on this island. It's horrible. Like, especially for the little kids. Like, when there's in the first part where the fire happens, and like they're not able to. I'm not going to call him Picky out of respect. Nicky. He says he never ended up doing the register of all the kids, so they can't find. He doesn't know if they found everyone. Like how it's scary enough to be trapped on this island, and then like to have that much responsibility put on your shoulders as like a 12-year-old or whatever, and then be like, I don't even know if we were able to save everyone. That's so like the whole thing is one of the most. It's a horrifying thing. So like to Stephen King's point and your point, I guess it absolutely could just play out as pure horror.
All right, so it is Lord of the Flies. It's on Netflix. It's 4 hours of your time. Don't expect to sort of get right up from your armchair afterwards and begin a lot of other tasks because you might not feel up to it. But it is, I think we all agree, very, very, penetrative. It just really kind of gets into you and disturbs you in all the right ways. All right, we're going to take a little break. We're going to change the mood quite a bit with the fall and rise of Reggie Dinkins.
The captain has arrived. Hello,
I must be going. I cannot stay. I came to say I must be going.
Hooray for Captain Spaulding, the African explorer. Hooray, hooray, hooray.
The first day I arrived in
Hooray for
Africa.
Captain Spaulding, the African explorer. Hooray, hooray, hooray.
The first day I arrived in
Hooray
Africa.
for Captain Spaulding, the African explorer. Hooray, hooray, hooray.
The first day I arrived. Hooray for Captain. Fooled you that time, didn't I?
Hooray, hooray,
You gotta be a football hero to get along with a beautiful girl. You gotta be a touchdown getter, you bet. If you wanna get a baby to pet, the fact that you are rich or
I love that song. That does not appear in The Fall and Rise of Reggie Dinkins, which is on NBC. It premiered, I believe, in mid-January. I think rather cleverly appended it to the end of an NFL divisional playoff game to pick up a certain kind of audience. In this series, which is done by Robert Carlock and Sam Means, who are sort of part of the Tina Fey extended cinematic universe. They worked on 30 Rock. They worked on Kimmy Schmidt. But Tracy Morgan plays not just a washed-up professional football player, but a completely discredited by a very bold and baldly exposed sports betting scandal. He's been cast out of the world of football, and he is living in a beautiful house because he got very rich playing football with his very beautiful fiancée, his son, and a documentarian who showed up to make a movie about his fall and rise, played by Danielle Radcliffe. And we'll play a little clip here before the panel gets going. You're going to hear Tracy Morgan as Reggie Dinkins, the football player. Bobby Moynihan is his best friend and the guy living in his basement, Rusty. Danielle Radcliffe as Arthur Tobin, and Jalen Hall as Carmelo Dinkins, son of Reggie. Here we go.
I found it. The sword I was talking about. Tom Cruise used it in that movie where he played the samurai. It's true, he actually did that. We should use this in our movie.
Reggie has an amazing idea for the ending. I get taken, and Reggie rescues me with a famous sword.
Reggie, you know what the word documentary means, right?
Well, I assume it's from the Latin word documentum, meaning lesson or instruction. I took Latin in college because I thought it would help me meet Dominican chicks. But then I liked it. So many languages come from it. I'm just trying to make this movie the best that it can be.
Documentary, and you can't really make a documentary work, Reggie. Frankly, all this fake play acting you're doing is really getting in the way.
I'm sorry, but he wrote things for me to say. Dad, you're such a good dancer. Can you teach me how to doogie?
It's Dougie. We practiced this.
All right. So Irene, I should say that I've been a fan of this show since it went on the air. I tend to like stuff that Carlock and Fey and people like that work on. I like their style of comedy writing. When I thought about it for The Nose, I wondered whether people who are on The Nose would like it as much as I do. And I probably particularly wondered about you, so I'm asking you first.
Yeah. Okay. Well, when I watched the first episode, my heart kind of sank because I was thinking like, oh my gosh, I'm not laughing. I don't think this is funny. Tracy Morgan never, like his just like constant goofiness, I just didn't laugh at. And I was like, how am I going to get through all the other, maybe I shouldn't even be on this week because I can't relate to it at all. It just alienated me and just seemed, but I kept watching. And I have to say that by probably the second episode, or when Erika Alexander came in, I started laughing and I started to like it. And by the end, I was just kind of like dancing around because I liked it so much. I thought, it was interesting to see Tracy Morgan. I like him more when he stopped being so goofy. And he was funny in a different way. I thought as his character evolved, at least for me. And then there were all these people that I recognized from Comedy Central or Saturday Night Live or Jennifer Coolidge's husband from The White Lotus, and but just the sort of human spirit of it started to kind of touch me, to my surprise.
Yeah, Shawn, some of the subsidiary casting for some of the smaller roles is also just terrific. Ronnie Chang, who's two of the rotating hosts of The Daily Show, are on, Michael Costa being the other one. But Ronnie Chang was just made to do this material. Yes. He plays the competing sports agent to Erika Alexander, who is Reggie Dinkins' ex-wife, Monica. And I was just watching Reggie Chang, sometimes you watch somebody working with the Carlock, Fey, Sam Means group, and you think, oh, they're just going to keep coming back to him because if they decide they like you, they just keep using you. Ronnie plays this just horrible, nasty, unpleasant person in a way that I can feel that they would really like. But Shawn, tell me some of your favorite performances on this.
I mean, obviously, you got to start with Tracy, and I think it's Tracy because Tracy Morgan has this ability, because of how naturally ridiculous he is in his personal life. There's nothing you can put on paper to make him say that is going to sound too absurd. Because I mean, he just says some of the silliest things you've ever heard in your life, and it just works because that's just how Tracy Morgan is. You know what I mean? So Reggie Dinkins is just an extension of Tracy Morgan. I'm so happy to see Erika Alexander back on TV and being incredible. I mean, obviously, Ronnie Chang is I don't know. They have the Carlock Fey. They have such a great ability to tap into what someone does really well and play it up to the high, the most extreme versions. Whether it's Alec Baldwin, playing up the ridiculousness of his seriousness in 30 Rock, and as the nitniest fan of 30 Rock, nitney means big. This show had a lot of writing on it for me, where it's Kimmy Schmidt and 30 Rock are two of my favorite comedies of all time. So I was kind of hesitant when this first was announced, and I'm pleased to see how much it is living up to what I hoped.
Yes, I am a gigantic fan of both of those things too, and a total completist about them. Therefore, I knew that Danielle Radcliffe had already worked for them before, because in Kimmy Schmidt the movie, he plays a prince that she's about to marry. But there's, Bill. First of all, I'm such a Radcliffe fan at this point, and I just think he's just really, really funny. We were talking about it before the show began, just physically really interesting. But shows like this also vibe off chemistry. And not only is there a very amusing chemistry between him and Megan Thee Stallion, which we maybe shouldn't entirely talk about or spoil for people, but I just think he and Morgan are doing kind of a nice thing together too. They have to get on each other's nerves in a certain way, and they're doing it.
It's a great kind of spin on a buddy comedy or an odd couple, kind of scenario. And I think you're right. Their chemistry is great. I think there's a lot of great chemistry between a lot of the characters on the show. And it really, I think it's a show that it would be easy to dismiss or to write off, because it is just, it's so light. I mean, if you think about what we're doing on today's episode, we could call this and now for something completely different. It's from the boiling cauldron of Lord of the Flies to the warm bath of Reggie Dinkins. And,
but it's kind of the antidote for male conflict. But
yeah,
anyway,
it's a nice little, way to sort of, if you watch Lord of the Flies, to just calm yourself down and realize we're not quite at the apocalypse yet. But it's just, it like 30 Rock or those other, Tina Fey associated things, it just leans into the silliness as far as it wants to. And that just makes it so much fun that it really is, without trying to do anything too serious. It's just a really enjoyable watch.
Yeah, I mean, I would say this though, that I'm not disagreeing with anything that anybody's saying here, but but Shawn, as a fellow Fey and Carlock completist, I mean, underneath the silliness and fun, they have their claws out, and they're willing to make jokes about things that a lot of people are not willing to make jokes about. They're willing to consider things that as comedy material that other people might not. And I would say in this one, and Shawn, I'd be specifically, for reasons that will become obvious, interested in knowing how you thought about this. I thought also some of the stuff that they do about the way black people see the world versus the way white people see the world in this, I think there's one thing, I'll just give an example. There's one thing where I think they're talking about somebody's grandmother who had dementia, and then she thought she was in the Wizard of Oz, and all the black characters go, "Not the Wiz?" And they go, "No, the white one." I think we've gotten less and less comfortable talking about race in this country, and for perhaps very good reasons, joking about race in this country. But I thought in some ways Reggie Dinkins does that well without kind of opening horrible wounds.
I actually think I should be the one to answer this question. So can you just pause
I was
yourself for a second,
say the same thing. No, I agree, Colin, and I also think it's especially well done considering not only are people less or a little bit more hesitant to talk or to address racial issues, but also when it's a white voice behind it, it got to a point where if it's a show about black people, it needs to be, the creator needs to be a black person, or otherwise you can't make these certain jokes. You know what I mean? It felt like, and this, Robert Carlock and Sam Means are not, as far as I know, I haven't done the Ancestry.com, but they are not black people. But yeah, they have. It's especially interesting with Tracy Morgan, because Tracy, again, is such a ridiculous person that sometimes some of the things you have him do, if you didn't know Tracy Morgan, you'd be like, is that what they think people, like a black person would be like? But no, this is what they think Tracy Morgan is like. And that's why, it's not like just buffoonery as a black character. It's like, this is a buffoon, but it's not totally out of the realm of imagination of something that Tracy Morgan would actually say. I was watching Bobby Moynihan was on Dan Soder, another comedian's podcast, and he was talking about, he had a running list on his phone of over 1,000 things that Tracy Morgan just says, in between takes. And he said, I'm not even answering the question anymore, but this is a funny story. He said one of the things was, one day somebody came to set, and she was trying to get their attention and trying to get his autograph or whatever. Or not, she's trying to talk to Tracy Morgan, and then he's like, no, it's okay. That's Jerry Seinfeld's wife. And then they let her on set, and then they have an interaction, and then she leaves, and then they're like, that was not Jerry Seinfeld's wife. That was just some lady. But that was just
some random 21-year-old.
Yeah, exactly.
I was reading, Irene, that Tracy Morgan, as sort of for promotional purposes, but also just to do it, he took Danielle Radcliffe to Danielle Radcliffe's first ever basketball game of any kind. It happened to be a Lakers game. And then apparently all the way through the game, he kept turning to Radcliffe and going, "I'm going to get LeBron to give you his sneakers." And Danielle Radcliffe would go, "Please don't do that." Goes, "No, I'm going to get this." And clearly that sort of unhinged quality that Shawn's talking about, I think it's sort of there in real life as well. Could you tell, I was interested when you said the thing about how you were a little resistant at first. By the end, you found yourself, I think you almost said almost dancing with laughter, or say something about that.
Or just, well, I kind of I love the topic of failure, and I sort of like the way it addressed that topic in a funny, charming, but also hopeful way, and so they just that's part of what made me just warm to them, is because it didn't work out, but what else can work out? Let's think about it. Let's do something. Let's move. Let's join together. Let's help each other. Kind of a feeling in a way that I really appreciated. One
of the things that I've been interested in the whole time of being a Fey and Carlock fan is part of their style is, we're going to be funnier than necessary. In fact, what we're going to do is we're going to do 25 jokes, and you might even only hear 14 of them, because you might be laughing from one of them and miss it. You also might not get some of them, somehow or other, of the 25 jokes. So I actually did a sort of an obsessive thing. I didn't really do a pitch charting them or anything, but over the course of just a few minutes in an episode, Radcliffe's character is Arthur. Arthur says he won the Brett Ratner Award, as it was called at the time, as he says. Meanwhile, Brina, who's Reggie's fiancée, describes how supportive Reggie can be. He's telling the ex-wife Monica that she was asked to be a brand ambassador for gut roll probiotic toilet paper, and that Reggie said, "You get that doo-doo money, baby," and she imitates him that way. Monica says of herself, she's about to go out on her first date in a long time. She says, "Stella's about to get her groove back." Or a more recent reference. Arthur talks about his experience with LA dating apps. He says, "I was on the app where Jared Leto matched with himself." That's followed by a search for a missing cat named Namath, and they're out in the woods. They discover a lost dog named Namath, and then 5 more lost dogs named Namath, because this is New Jersey, a place where everybody's dog is named Namath, which also includes, as a searchable area, Big Pussy Boncero State Park. It just goes on and on like that. They're just throwing these details at you, and they're just sort of saying, you catch up with them. And Shawn, I think in comedy, they really have kind of reformulated the beat structure. It isn't this kind of, bum, bum, ba-dum. It's just like this constant Steve Reich kind of rhythm machine throwing stuff at you, and you try to absorb it.
No, it's just an onslaught. One of my favorite bits, in I think it was episode 3 when Tracy's watching Reggie's watching TV, and he's watching NYFD Chicago, and it's like the New York Fire Department has a specific department where they put out fires in Chicago.
Well, but doesn't have it later out in the street. This fireman runs up to Radcliffe and Morgan's characters and says, "I get to a fire in Chicago," and they look at each other and they go, "It's real." So the callbacks are great. Yeah, what were you going to say?
No, I was going to say one of the things I noticed with this show is one of the differences between this and 30 Rock is it's just crazy how you can see how TV budgets have changed. Mm-hmm. So many of the cutaway gags are just ADR now, where in the past on 30 Rock it would have been a full scene. Mm-hmm. There's a couple of the NYFD Chicago stuff. It's just ADR, and on 30 Rock they would have cut to a scene. You know what I mean? In a fireman rushing into a building or something. It's funny to see how they're still able to get those jokes in, even it just shows you how much we were spoiled by something like 30 Rock. They didn't have to do all that. They just did it because they're NBC's gonna let us film this extra scene for no reason. Why not do it? But it still works. Epstein's Island. That was such a funny one.
Well, so what he's referring to is that it turns out there's an optometrist or an optician in town, who has a place called Epstein's Island, where you can go and buy your glasses and stuff like that. Yeah, there's this quick cut over to that thing. All right, so we should probably wrap up here, but I think we all like this. We encourage people to overcome whatever insecurities they may have about it and go with it and have fun. And, I told the story about them at the basketball game and the sneakers. I forget to throw in that one of my favorite early lines in this series is that I think it's Monica spouts out some sort of single names of really famous people and athletes. And Reggie Dinkins goes, "I need last names. Do you have any idea how many LeBrons I know?" Which is also a great line. All right. It's The Fall and Rise of Reggie Dinkins. You can find it on Peacock, or you can find it on regular old NBC. We're going to take a little break here, and we will come back and make some recommendations.
Your last dying day. When you're a jet, let them do what they can. You've got brothers around. You're a family man. You're never alone. You're never disconnected. You're home with your own. When company's expected. You're well protected. Then you are set with a capital J, which you'll never forget till they cart you away. When you're a jet, you stay a jet. And we're gonna beat every last buggin' gang on the whole buggin' street, on the whole buggin' ever.
And we're back. The reason I know that I'm supposed to talk right now is our technical producer, the Jedi Master himself, Gene Amatruda, has taken the controls today. Dylan Reyes is a little under the weather after our busy week this week. Also, the producer of this episode is Jonathan McPants, as per usual. Also, thanks to Robin Doyen Aiken, our great boss here, for a fun week of shows, including one she produced yesterday. And, of course, to Lily Tyson Quality Entertainment Productions, which makes all of this possible and a little bit frightening. All right, time to make some endorsements. We got our panel here. Irene Papoulis, get us going.
Okay, so if you liked Lord of the Flies and you like sort of depressing but interesting shows, I happen to have discovered this show called The Man in the High Castle. Did everyone already know about that?
Fantastic, Philip K. Dick.
And so I'm watching. Yeah, it was based on a Philip K. Dick novel. It's about in this first season. I don't know if I'm going to watch more, but the first season takes place. They wrote it. They did it, and they first did it in 2015. And it's interesting to think that how they saw things. It just seemed like a sort of fantasy or dystopia versus how we see it now, and it seems more relevant than ever now. I mean, the Axis powers won World War II, and there's the greater Nazi Reich in the East United States, Japanese Pacific states. I mean, in the West, in the East, Japanese Pacific states in the West. And I find it very interesting to see how they do that, and the whole idea of resistance and what that means. And Rufus Sewell, Carrie Russell's husband in The Diplomat, is just incredible as a Nazi, and maybe you guys all saw it already, but I think it's great.
I do want to say, Irene, that my week this week included immersion in George Orwell in order to do an Orwell episode, seeing Jacques Circus Fire play, and then immersion in Lord of the Flies. I really need to go see The Sheep Detectives or something. I need to see. I cannot watch Man in the High Castle now.
Don't do it.
I mean, The Man in the High Castle is really kind of the inversion of 1984. It's like, well, okay, what if the other bad guys took over instead? So, yeah. Shawn, how about you? What have you got to endorse?
Well, coming out 2027, Irene Papoulis' Lady of the Flies, of course. I recently read a novel by a writer, Dan Fesperman, called Pariah. It's about a canceled comedian, an actor who's also kind of a senator, but is not supposed to be like a parallel.
So basically
to Al
just
Franken.
you, right?
Yeah, I mean,
I
know Fesperman. That's all I'll say. I know Fesperman. But it's about he's canceled and he's invited by a foreign leader to come visit, and he gets sort of tapped on the shoulder by the CIA to do some spying while he's over there. It's a really interesting story about the sort of hijinks he gets into as he's bumbling his way into being a spy. And it's a really good, really interesting story. I also recently watched Richard Ayoade's The Double from 2013, starring Jesse Eisenberg, which is based on the Dostoevsky story. And I thought that was really good. Mia Wasikowska, I don't know how to say her name. Mia Wasikowska is very good in it. And I think you guys should watch it.
All right. Those are some very good recommendations. Bill Yousman, how about you?
So Megan Garber is a journalist who dedicated listeners will remember from at least one previous episode of the Colin McEnroe Show. She's got a new book called Screen People, How We Entertained Ourselves into a State of Emergency. And you can sort of tell by the title, it's a shorthand description of it is that it's Neil Postman's Amusing Ourselves to Death, a classic text in media studies, updated for the age of social media, smartphones, and the internet. Garber has a really great facility of integrating all of this theoretical work in media studies and social psychology into a form that's really accessible for people who may not be immersed in that literature. And I think she makes some really interesting arguments and says a lot about the state of the world that we're living in now.
I'm going to sort of maybe make a recommendation that kind of builds on that a little bit, I hope anyway. Before I do that, I just want to say kind of obscure movie from 2016, with Paul Dano and Danielle Radcliffe is called Swiss Army Man. And it's when I realized that Danielle Radcliffe was going to be so much more than just Harry Potter. Not that that's not a pretty big thing to be, but and just physically, kinetically, what he has to do in this movie is incredible. But what I've been thinking about a lot lately is how we respond to the current environment that is gradually going to be taken over more and more by AI. And one of the things that I've been doing a lot, sort of by plan and design and also just by preference, is seeing a lot of live theater. And so I did see the Circus Fire play this week. I saw Jesus Christ Superstar down at Goodspeed. I saw Lifespan of a Fact at Playhouse on Park Road. And then I came back and we did a panel about it. I've just been back from New York where I saw Wallace Shawn's new play, what we did before our Moth Days. And I also saw this incredible one-person or two-person show called Ken Rex. And I'm just aware of the fact that, when we see things with just human beings there, or we go to a club and we see Shawn Murray do stand-up comedy, when we go see the Flying Karamazovs do juggling neo-vaudeville stuff, it's really important that we do these things, I think, because these are things that can't be AI. These are us watching human beings do things that, yes, increasingly, like even with Jacques' play, there's a certain amount of multimedia built into his recreation of 1944. But basically, this is human beings, being human beings, talking about the problems of human beings. And you think about all the kind of dystopian stuff that we have watched in the past or read in the past, in Station 11, they start going around doing Shakespeare plays. Now, partly that's because they're post-electric, but also because I think this is important, that as much as we have been blessed by the incredible ability to stream just about anything we want and never leave our houses, that can also become a trap. And I think AI is going to make it more of a trap. So I just want to encourage people, if a month goes by and you didn't at least go see somebody do stand-up comedy in person, or go see any kind of live performance. And Irene goes to the symphony a lot.
I'm going tonight.
She's going tonight. All that stuff. Seeing live stuff is going to be more important and kind of a form of virtue, I think, too, in this era where our whole attitude of what culture is, I think, is going to be very, very much threatened by AI. Enhanced at times by AI, but also threatened by it. So that's like the next Megan Garber book or something. I don't know. Anyway, thanks to everybody for listening. I hope we can throw this in. We don't use any AI to the best of my knowledge on this show so far. Anyway.
Except for Shawn Murray,
who
is completely
That's
AI.
That's right, yeah. He's just
we weren't ready to reveal that yet.
He's just a clod.
He thought it was Allen Iverson.
All right, we're going to take a little farewell, and we're going to take a little weekend off, and we're going to come back, and we're going to do more shows for you next week. Don't forget, we are at TheaterWorks on Monday night. You might want to join us. It's free of charge. Just reserve your tickets at ctpublic.org at /Colin.
Everything as a matter of fact, oh yeah. Talk about Torrington, Vernon, Danbury, Waterbury, Alderberry, Woodbury, hitting on New Britain, Vernon, I already said that one, Avon, Farmington, yeah.